don't know if we don't need to see it, no one's on it. We don't need it on, do we?
No,
Well, it just helps to see that.
that is, everything's doing what it's supposed to.
Time's 11:30. I call the special meeting on June 5th to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry. I like there. All right, so we have called the special meeting. Originally was to set the mill rate, but the budget didn't pass, so we're gonna focus this special meeting on the preparing of the new budget and the budgets and the timeline. So I'm gonna recommend that we move the approval of the minutes and items A, B, and C of new business to our next meeting, which will be Tuesday.
Second,
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to move the approval of the minutes and items
I
A,
need
B,
the
and
Wi-Fi
C
setting.
of new business to Tuesday's meeting. All in favor?
aye.
So we're gonna go right into the budget.
I use
So
the voice to text.
everyone's aware that,
You
Budget.
gotta go through citizens' comments.
oh, yeah, the
Any citizens' comments?
Okay, so everyone's aware that all three budgets failed on Tuesday by a lot. So Julie and I went through and we took a look at our budget and the capital projects budget and to figure out what we need to do. We also realized from the referendum that there was a lot of misinformation going on there, townwide, because I think we've put a lot of information, we've been working on a lot of projects previous to the budget, that there's a lot of confusion out there with people as to what was actually in the budget. We had people that thought the water study, like all new water study, wells was in the budget. We had people that thought that there was a trash incinerator in the budget. We had people that thought the light was in the budget, or that the capital project money that we were asking for was the money to fund the blight, because the numbers were close.
Exactly, 330 versus.
So, there was a lot of confusion with people
Thank
as
you.
to what exactly was being voted for. So. And
Well, not just confusion, but it was also rampant misinformation that was
Yeah.
being put out ahead of time. And one of the things we need to make sure we address is clear, concise messaging around, this is why the budget's going up. Here's where we've made cuts, as we're just about to discuss. And
one of the other things we realized too is that with our salary study that we did and our plans to get people up to their stages, looks like people are getting like raises of a huge amount when it's going through our salary study. So one of the things when we do the town meeting is we're gonna have to go through the salary study, why we did it, that it was also, we changed, job descriptions were changed at the same time. So it's people's, actual job duties are more too. And some of the positions in the budget that went up isn't because their salaries just went up or their wages just went up, but that position's working more hours because they're taking on another position too. And it's the hours that are changing, not their pay. So, but their pay is changing because they're working more hours. So there's like certain things that we need to get out there too, so that people understand like why we did this and why it's in there, and that this isn't gonna be something that happens every budget. We're just getting the
it's
staff,
a level set.
yeah, up to the level where they need to be. So that being said, we really didn't want to cut anyone's proposed salary step increases, but we did. So the new budget shows, right off that the first selectman, amount, is not, an increase on the budget line. And the other position that took a, hit was the finance director position, which is less than what was originally proposed. So we did cut money from both those positions. And then we cut money from, this budget also does not include the, weekend paid staff for the fire department. In case anyone doesn't know, Jody, after his years of service,
33.
yeah, stepped down from fire chief, and Emil is now the fire chief. So I did call Emil, and explained everything to him that, we're gonna remove, we're not gonna add any new staff to the budget, which also took out the rec. There was a rec staff in here. There was a, rec staff, library staff, and the weekend paid staff. The only staff that would be in this budget is the driver for the van. If I don't want to take that out of the budget, if we don't have the money in the budget, and this is a fact, this isn't a threat or anything, but if we don't have the money in the budget to go towards that van, we have to give the van back. Because it hasn't been used, and the state, I just got an email, yesterday, that's like, why aren't you using this van? We're gonna have to take it back and give it to someone else because you're not using it. So I don't want to cut that. It is a need, it is being used, and it will continue to be used. So back to the weekend day stuff. So I did tell Emil, that we're gonna hold off on that right now. But in the meantime, we need to have a study group for the fire department. Because the fire EMT costs are gonna be increasing to our budget from now going forward, because for many reasons, we're not getting volunteers. We're gonna have to start with the first thing, the weekend staff. We're gonna have to add more paid staff. We're gonna have to consider going into 24-hour paid staff. And we're gonna have to start getting the message out there that we are doing, plans, which we got from we used our, COVID fund money for a design for addition to the fire department, because right now there are not bunk rooms there. And in order to have overnight staff, 24-hour staff, we are gonna need an addition to the firehouse for that. So I wanted to, start a study group to look at all the options for fire EMT, because there are a lot of options out there, and what their impact would be, to the taxpayers, and what we'd have to do to get there. And this would include like starting a separate fire tax, or regionalizing with other towns, or just contracting out. Like, these are all things that need to be looked at. And I want it to be a committee with fire department staff, and residents and people from the town hall, so like everyone's involved. And we have to start getting the message out there, like, this is something we can't avoid, it's gonna happen somewhere. So that's where we went with those. I think that's what we got. So that managed to bring it down to the 11.
No, so it's second page and it's at the-
Okay,
On the back.
yeah. All right, so that brings us down to a $94,273 increase, proposal. On the school, I recommended to Adam to do, a $50,000 decrease to bring them down to 99,000, which gives us a total increase of 193,290.
Great. Tracy, could I make a few statements then?
Yeah,
Yes, thank you for calling me. I went through the budget and strategically came up with very, very close to the amount that you requested. And I wanted to say that, first of all, we had a bid for the HVAC and the asbestos removal, and we saved $17,000 with that. So right off the bat, that's a savings. And then we cut back on maintenance, and then I strategically cut a number of things. Now, the Board of Ed is meeting tonight, and of course, they're the final decisions, but I will give them my strong recommendation that this meets the request of the selectmen. Now, there's a couple of things, and I'm not sure what they will approve, but there's a couple of things related to the education budget that I have to say publicly. On the town website, there's a reference to the drop in student enrollment, and then the next sentence is teacher costs have increased. No, we have been reducing faculty as the enrollment has declined. As a matter of fact, our cost for the teacher contract next year is less than what we're spending this year. And the people have to understand that every time there's a reduction in the enrollment, we have taken steps, okay? Now, there have been some significant changes in education. And there was a legislation that was proposed by the legislators that as soon as students turn 21, then they would end our obligation as a local community to pay for that. But I will tell you, that didn't go through. So we're responsible if a child turns 22 on July 1st, we are responsible for paying their tuition until they're 22 and 365 days. And this is increased because when I first got here, it was age 21 and you finished, but there's been almost 2 additional years added to that. Now, that is a considerable portion of our budget, and we have we can't say we're not going to educate the children. The other thing is, and I said it at the town meeting, 4 months ago, we had 2 outplacements that to combine cost more than $400,000. One of them was a court-ordered placement, and we have no say on that, we have to pay. And the other one was for a special child that needed an outside placement. Well, fortunately, both families moved. But if they hadn't moved, I would have been sitting here saying, I need to, how do I pay for this? Because this is the situation we're in. Now, publicly, we were saved with the ECS. Tracy, thank you for testifying up at the Capitol. And we have to thank our state senator and our state rep because they have represented us. When we passed the budget, we were being faced with $114,000 drop in that revenue. That has been restored for this year and for next, and that equals 1 mil. So that is going to help this budget. And I just want you to know that even though we haven't replaced teachers, we had 5 retirements this year, but we eliminated a special ed teacher, but we had to contract behavioral resources from EastCon, because if we didn't, we'd have to outplace that child, and we're meeting the needs here at BES, and we do that as much as possible. And then the other thing is, we have a handicapped child, and we, in the budget is, certified nursing services for that one child that's contracted, but that's in the budget. Now, I eliminated a special ed teacher, but I just talked to you about 2 outside resources. The other thing is we eliminated our technology coordinator, and Learn Tech Services is taking over. And they've been reviewing our contracts, and they already saved us some money by making suggestions and negotiating a price, which has been helpful. But I thank the Board of Selectmen, and please, the community has to understand that as we're declining enrollment, we are reducing staff to make sure. And, the budget that I proposed at the town meeting was 2.03% for $148,000. And if you look around the region, I don't think anybody else has a 2.03%. And it will go down more even if the Board of Ed decides to approve the budget that I'm proposing them tonight. But thank you for letting me to speak here. But if we combine all of these things, I think you're going to see in your proposal at the next town meeting, an opportunity to have a more reasonable mill increase. Or, well, no, you can't go to no increase.
We
But-
are going to,
We're
we're
reducing.
gonna go to no
You think you're gonna have to
yes,
go?
and this is what I was gonna, for my next
Well,
thing.
I'll leave that up to you.
But I have one question for you, Adam, to make sure that this is clear what you just said. So the Board of Education's legal requirement to cover a student up to age 21, now age 22.
22 and.
What are we covering them on? We are not covering them for going to college, correct?
No, these are identified special ed needs required by law. And our population of grade 12 plus special education students has increased, most assuredly. And as I said, I mean, I'm sitting in my office and I get a letter from the court saying, we've just determined that you're the nexus town, and we have this student placed in a school way far away from here, and you're responsible for the $156,000 tuition and transportation. So you look at those and you say, this is the nature of what's happening. And the formula for excess cost for special education has never been fully funded. That's why when I propose my budgets, I propose full cost of the special ed, because I can't put a number in there for the state, because generally speaking, in my years of experience, it's March and they said, oh, gee, we can't cover that much, so we're going to give you this. And when I was acting superintendent in another school district, that notice came in March. And let me tell you, I'm sitting there and we had to make up $440,000 because they built their budget around expecting this money from the state that didn't come. So, this is one of the things that we're dealing with. And then when the excess cost reimbursement comes in, that goes back to the town. And when I first got here, I mentioned to the board, I want to not accept, I don't want the excess cost coming in. I want a full budget special ed students and turn the money back to the town. So this is what's happening and this is where we are. Thank you, Skip.
One of the questions that's probably gonna be asked, because I've been asked it by residents, is if there were so many retired teachers, where is that money going? And
Yes, and I just
think
mentioned
you
the list of
explained it.
things.
I think you explained it, but. if you
Right,
could
I
say-
just
say
mentioned
it
the
to
list
answer
of
that
things.
question. Yeah.
And, again, we had to have increased nursing services because of special ed. We also had to have a changeover with, the technology, but we saved money on that. And then the other thing is, we had to have behavioral consultants from EastCon come in to meet the needs of special ed students and work with the staff. So there was money that was replaced but they were overall savings. And I can't tell you, we of course are buying, 4 new buses. There was an increase in transportation, but, that was a big thing. And then the other thing that we got hit with was a school lunch program. Now, 3 years ago, they offered free breakfast and lunch for all students. That year, we served 44,000 meals. We were in the black. We received reimbursement, and now that's been cut back. And even next year, they're thinking of eliminating that. So one of the biggest increases I had was for the school lunch program. So you can see what do we do with the savings? Those are some of the things that happened, okay? And, the building is in good shape, but, we did have to increase maintenance a little bit, so that's where we are, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yep,
Okay,
I'm gonna take off then,
okay.
unless you
Well, if
need,
you want to hear the rest, how we're gonna bring it to a no mill rate increase.
okay, if you're brief, I think is what he's saying.
Okay, we're getting
Yep.
it. All right.
Yeah, for me too.
So the next thing to move on to is the capital project. So you might have to help me with this part, because we figured out that if the school goes down 50%, 50,000, we're anticipating $193, 296 increase in the budget. But we are gonna recommend to offset that with, and this is something that the town used to do in the past, but since I've been here, we haven't done it. But I think this is, that with the reval being the way that it was, that this is a special circumstance to do it, would be to use money from the general fund, some of it which we had applied to capital projects, which are not on the capital projects now, to use to offset that mill rate, so that it would be a no mill rate change. And the mill rate would be 20
There would
point.
be a mill rate change, but there would be.
Oh, yeah, the mill rate will
Amount,
change.
the
but
amount
the-
of tax we're asking for will be the same exact as the amount of tax as for last year.
Yeah.
Taxpayer funded would remain the same as last year.
Yeah.
The mill rate's gonna
The
change.
mill rate
but the amount of tax we're
But
asking
that's,
for
we
will
haven't
be the same
changed that,
as
it's
last
gonna be the same.
year. Taxpayer funded.
And that's because we understand that the mill rate is, but with the reval just is,
Can I say
go for it.
one thing quick too? So with this, the mill rate at 20.72, your your real estate property, the average assessment will remain the same as last year. But what we will see is the motor vehicles went down 20%. So even no matter what your assessment is at, whether it's the same, less, or even a little bit greater, your vehicle taxes will be less. So overall, you're not paying any more on average, and there's gonna be some people that have higher rates of reval that we can't change. But some of that, you'll actually see either no increase or actually pay less taxes than you did last year because of your vehicles. You're gonna be paying less on your vehicle. It's 8.5 mils less than what you paid on your vehicle last year. So if your vehicle was 10,000 last year, it might be assessed at 9,000 this year and 8 mils less than what? So there's gonna be fairly significant savings from your. There should be savings from your car taxes and on average.
Do we have a number yet on what the average increase will be per 100,000? Because that's a number that people are going to fixate on.
Okay.
If you don't have that right now, I got it, but
Yeah.
that is gonna be something that,
Well,
Is-
average increase would be the same as last year, it should be 0.
Yeah.
But if you're greater than 50%, you're gonna have an increase. If you're less than 50%, you're gonna have a decrease. You can't make a mill rate to fit every single
Yeah, we
person.
no, understood, but it's gonna be,
Figure it out for
The
each
only,
person.
But an
the only way
average.
we can do it is say,
The average person might not have an increase at all.
the taxpayer amount of funds
We don't know.
is going to be the same as last year.
Okay.
And with everything that changes, that's all we can do.
Yeah. we can't change people's assessment on their houses, so we can't really affect that.
We
But we
we can't
can-
fix everybody, but that's the best way we can do.
We can make it so that the budget does not affect the taxpayer, which is what we can do and what we've done, so.
Okay,
Suggestions on that, or?
yes, suggestion that, we're giving the town what they asked for. From the best we can hear, best, to the best of our knowledge, of keeping the, personal property taxes as flat as possible. But I think we also need to make sure that we very clearly call out all the things that we are unable to do by doing that. As that's here's the budget, and here's the things we cannot do. And
As
call
far
them,
as what, cannot do what?
well, we are, again, we're not going to the, paid weekend staff.
Yeah.
So,
Not now, not saying that we won't in the future or
no, no,
whatever.
but all what's concerned, everyone, all we're concerned about right now is this budget year.
Right, yeah,
But we need to make sure, because otherwise there's a perception, it will reinforce the perception of there was lots of fluff. There was lots of fat in the budget when there wasn't.
by the fluff, besides the salaries, which we.
Yep,
and we've
I understood,
scheduled for
understood, but again, when we don't do those salary increases, this is no longer a desirable place to work, and people will find better paying jobs elsewhere, and then we're in trouble.
Salary increases, you're gonna see finance director, treasurer, assistant treasurer. We increased the investment in the town from 1,000 to 100,000. We paid for our salaries, the taxpayers aren't paying for our salaries. The building department went from 35,000 in revenue to 80,000+. They're paying for their salaries. So yes, you're paying a little bit more for these people.
And that's a slide right there.
They're
What you
paying for
just
their
said, that's
salaries.
The
awesome.
same happened with the first selectman position, because right before I started as first selectman, we had a road foreman, which was in the budget.
Yeah.
For,
So
it
we
was
paid
like,
more for.
it was over
part-time.
about $100,000. That includes their salary and their benefits was in the budget for that road foreman. Now that position got eliminated, but the job of that position did not get eliminated. It automatically gets put on the first selectman, because if there's a job that needs to be done and you don't have someone to do that, it goes.
Here's
to the
another hat,
first-
Tracy.
It goes to the
So
first
at that
selectman,
time,
so
we
we're
were
actually
paying
saving money.
130,000, now we're paying 70.
Saving money having a full-time first selectman that's taking on those duties versus hiring someone separate. If the first selectman position gets cut and moved to part-time, there's gonna have to be someone paid, and it can't be a road foreman because that position's been eliminated. It would have to be a public works director. And even if that public works director is part-time, they're not gonna be able to find one for less than 50 grand for part-time.
You're not gonna save, you're gonna spend more money.
Yeah. And if the first selectman is not here full-time, there has to be someone in that person's place that can answer the phones, make sure the emails come through 24/7, and there can be emails coming through that have to be acted on right away. So if that first selectman's not here full-time and is not checking their emails like all the time, there has to be someone on staff here that can be dedicated to answering the calls, scheduling meetings, responding and answering emails. Like Julie does that, but I do a lot of it because I'm here full-time. So there's and all the work that the finance director does, like it would have to be another position.
When
too.
my job started, we outsourced half of my job. So now we in-housed it, so that's another reason that my job changed
Yeah.
considerably, because we outsourced to an auditor and we outsourced to
A bookkeeper.
bookkeeping. So we got rid of that, and that's why my job itself changed.
That's why hers went up
More-
too, because we were outsourcing 2 people.
And more the Connecticut
Yeah.
is demanding more and more reporting.
So this is all the type of stuff that we need to be putting out. to the
Yeah,
town
and that's
people.
what I'm gonna actually start putting it on the website, and it hopefully will be on there by the end of next week, is I'm gonna put on the website our information, the links to the meetings when we did the salary study. So when the salary study person did the presentation, I'm gonna find those meetings on YouTube and put them on the page. We're gonna put the job descriptions up there because I think it's really miscommunication as to what exactly the job descriptions are, because
Yep.
they've changed over the years. It's like, just in the past, like 5 years and plus, the state has cut their money on hiring staff and has shifted responsibilities to the municipalities. So the tax collector and the town clerk are doing things now that were done on the state level before. And the job descriptions have changed. So it's more, you need more experience, more qualifications, more everything to hold the positions now. And a lot of the positions we have, they're mandated. Like, you have to have a town clerk, you have to have a tax collector, you have to,
Well, and that's
can't
also the whole
eliminate the
reason why
position.
we converted them from elected positions to appointed positions,
the
because the
skill set
qualifications.
and the skill set is very limited right now for these positions. Towns are trying really hard to fill vacancies. And some towns can't fill their vacancies, and what they have to do is regionalize with another town. So there are many towns that, like, they don't have, say if we didn't have a tax collector. Well, if we can't find a tax collector, we're gonna have to see if any of the other towns will take our responsibility. And like, say Griswold, so if we wanna pay your taxes, you're gonna have to go to Griswold and pay them. And we're gonna have to pay Griswold to compensate for that, and the Griswold tax collector probably pays twice as much as ours does for salaries. So would we be paying, what, half that or 1% of that, which really is not saving money. So we've looked at all these options, like, we didn't just all of a sudden decide to pay everyone more money. Like, we've looked at all these options, we outsourced to a company to help us get to where we are. So
And
we just have to get that
to increase
information
the
out
revenue
there.
to pay for that as well.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing on the record?
Yeah.
I really strongly oppose you to lower your salaries. I'm very happy that you're willing to, but I think you're both worth that, and you both increased your roles so much, and I feel it diminishes your roles. That's all I wanted to say, because you guys deserve the full rate. I just want that on record, because I think it's wrong.
I agree with Pam.
I don't think the budget will pass if mine doesn't go down.
Yeah,
I know, I just wanted to say it, because it makes me sad.
all right, so these are what we're gonna present for now. Capital projects, we had to go down, the 200,000, we can't really change. If we get rid of that, we get rid of the grant.
We need to explain that when you're doing anything on the website.
The,
If you cut the public works, 200,000 down, you lose the grant.
yeah, well, we're actually working with, the
You
grant right now to see if we can split that money over, 2 different budgets. They're telling us that we had to have the money appropriate, like, set aside for it when we applied, which we did, but
We're trying to rearrange some money and see if we can make some savings there,
yeah.
but we have to ask the grant writers if we can. So right now, we can't make the changes.
Yeah.
Until we find them.
Okay.
We changed it down to 220 from 300. Maybe we might be able to do some more once we discuss it with him. And then on the bottom portion, we added what is gonna be used to offset the mill rate, the 211, if you look at the bottom, from 220 to 211. So that 211 will be used to offset the mill rate.
Where's that?
Capital project budget,
It's not on there.
it should be on one of them. On the back, something, there, it's on the back.
Yeah, that's there, but the two
Oh,
eleven's not on.
didn't think of them?
No,
To change it after you guys.
one other suggestion is, and not necessarily on this budget, but a separate sheet showing what the proposed budget that we put up for referendum versus the changes that we've made.
Yeah, on a slide.
Yeah, on a slide, to
Okay.
show that, look, here's what you voted down, we made changes. And here's where we made changes, and then that will tie into the summation at the end of, here's all the things that we can't do this budget year now.
Mhm.
So,
I would like to suggest the school board does that as well, because we have a lot of people saying they can't understand the school board budget.
It's, budgets are complex.
But ours is really nice and clear.
That's the
Like
same
copy.
thing.
That's okay.
Oh, it's not printing, is that a problem?
It is, the old version, you keep printing the old version.
Print here is that, no.
Okay,
Okay.
anyway, I need to go, so,
Date.
Oh, yeah, we have to figure out the date. So, we talked to, the town attorney, because we were trying to figure out what like, what
All the
we're
lead
required to
times.
do and the
Yeah.
times and everything. So, we went through the dates. In order to do another referendum, we'll see that it's tight. We have to have a mill rate set, before the end of the month. So that the bills can go out, timely. We have to set a mill rate before the end of the month. So we're gonna recommend the, 20.72. If this budget that we're proposing doesn't pass, we're gonna stay with the 20.72 as our recommended mill rate. And, that's what we're gonna what we're gonna put forward for. So, but the dates, Julie's got them to.
So, Tuesday, we're gonna have to approve the call and, it should get into the paper on Friday. I'm hoping to have it in by Friday the 13th. That would mean it would be exactly 5 days on the 17th, so I'm not sure if that's gonna be too tight.
To do the town meeting on the 17th.
So it has to be 17th or later. So you guys need to decide, if you want to do it Wednesday or Thursday or the following Tuesday, the 24th. The registrars, this is without a referendum.
I was gonna say,
Referendum, because
rather
the thing is, if we do the referendum, there's more time and it makes us closer to the end of the month. So if the.
so didn't you already put out on the town website that the next budget vote will be at the town meeting?
I did put it out there that that's what we would do, but like, I just wanted to be clear that it's also, the timing's really tight. If this budget doesn't pass that we're proposing, it does it makes more time and it's tight. And it's also, every time we go to referendum,
It's another, what, $5,000?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so it's, I'm fully on board with vote at the town meeting for this budget.
yeah.
And that, going forward, you know, that should be our standard if something doesn't pass, referendum one time, but then that's $5,000 wasted every time we do it.
And the thing is too, we're not even mandated at all to go to a referendum, like, we don't have a charter.
No,
Other
no
towns-
increase.
Other towns have charters where they're required to, we don't. We chose to go to referendum for this budget because it was even, and because I always said I would always go to a referendum if there was a mill rate increase. Technically, with this budget, there was not a mill rate increase. There was actually a mill rate decrease, but because,
Revaluation,
yeah, what?
because of the revaluation.
Yeah, because of the revaluation, but because our budget did go up, I thought it was more honest to do the referendum, because if we didn't have the reval, it would have been an increase. So that's why we did a referendum, was because the budget was going up. Right now, with our proposed budget, it's not, with the way that we're gonna present it, it's not going up. So
Taxpayer funded amount will stay
we'll
the
stay
same.
the same.
Well, I would drive home the point of what's coming out of the budget, especially the firefighters, not having a weekend coverage, which has been requested, and I think is needed. I would make the point of saying if this budget doesn't pass, and that's being the board education budget. The items that would be next up for cutting would be the public works, $200,000, and how much we're gonna lose in grant money for that.
Yeah.
And we will get rid of the driver for the elderly van.
And lose the ban.
And lose the van, and so we put it to people, this is what it is.
If you
You
take
know,
the two
We
hundred
don't
Hope
have
you-
fluff.
Yeah, there is no. This is what it is. You
If
know,
you take the 200,000, that's not gonna change the amount of taxes we're paying next year, that's coming out of the unassigned fund, that's already money that's in there, that's not gonna change your tax rate.
Yeah.
It's not gonna affect whether your taxes increase or decrease, it's not gonna,
okay,
it's just gonna make money sit there and do nothing, we'd rather take it out of the unassigned fund than have to put it in the budget, increase your taxes, so.
Yeah. So they can't, there's a no tax increase in this budget, so.
But it's, at some level, there's a visceral unhappiness with the budget, and that's the way to understand it.
Yeah.
Yep,
So just explain, you know.
So
this is what
the-
reality is.
so June 17th or 24th is what we're looking at for the
No,
town
well, we
meeting.
don't have, in this meeting, there's no, ordinance that
June.
says,
Oh, we're in June now.
Yeah, we're in June.
there's no ordinance that says it has to be a Tuesday. We've just always done them on Tuesday, so I don't think we can go out to the 24th, that's really pushing it.
Yeah,
Okay.
We could do it later that week.
We can do it 18th or 19th. I would
Wait.
say after the 17th, just be on the safe side in case the paper doesn't get it
So
in.
are we recommending the 18th just because in case the paper is gonna,
I would say
didn't-
the 19th, just to be safe.
the 19th?
I didn't check with the registrar, I only checked on Tuesdays with the registrar, so I'll have to check with them too, but it should be okay.
I know, and as far as, and I would recommend the 19th too, because we have been having like, since the Norwich Bulletin is the paper that we work with for our legal notices, and right now it's still state mandated that you have to have your legal notices in the paper. They outsource their legal notices to like a company in like Cincinnati or I don't know where,
So
and
it's
they,
adding lead time.
and they
Yeah.
So
keep
sometimes it's 3 days, sometimes
they
it's 5
keep
days.
changing the days as to when they can put them out, so we never know.
The June 19th is a federal holiday.
Oh,
That's
sure, I remember
Juneteenth.
that.
So
We
can
can't
we
do
bump to
that.
the 20th?
So maybe we should,
I
do
forgot about
we
that.
could do the
Okay.
following Tuesday then if we're not doing a referendum, then I guess we could, but that means if it fails, we're only one more time.
Well, if it fails, the legal advice said if it fails, we set the mill rate and that's what it stays at. So, and if we don't,
We just operate without a budget at that point?
Well,
no,
you
we put the
Still have
bills
to
out
go
of
out, the, voted on, but the mill rate will be the mill rate.
Okay,
and he said if, like, we don't have a tax increase proposed, so I don't know how lower,
Huh.
like, how to even lower.
I am not in the state of Connecticut, the 24th
Okay,
that night.
so do you want to try the, how about
What
the
days are?
18th then, after all?
You can't wait. If you're not here, so you rush it tough.
You know,
And let me be clear, I will not be in Russia. Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Let me be very clear.
We could do the 18th, we just have to be really careful getting it in on time. The other suggestion that I made for Julie, but it's gonna be really tight, is for you guys to do a special meeting Monday, just to give us one more day on the newspaper,
I do the special meeting instead.
just to do the call.
Just to do the call.
That was my only thought, it gives us one more newspaper lead day.
Can anyone do a quick meeting on Monday?
The 9th?
Yep.
Yep.
What time?
I just can't do in the morning because Sophie's getting an award and I'm going to the Norwich Tech.
And
And I can't do the evening
18th
because it's 8th grade
Well, we
graduation.
can still do it during the day.
Yes,
Does the 18th work for you?
yes. I could do the 19th
Monday, the 18th, Monday and,
during
ninth,
the afternoon of the 9th and the evening of the 18th.
Yeah, let's do the evening. And if we can have a meeting at some point in the afternoon on, are you around here?
I will be here.
Okay. And we'll just do the meeting call then and have the regular meeting on Tuesday.
what time on the night?
I can do any time, probably after 11 or noon.
And that's you guys.
I'm gonna have to check my work calendar, which I don't have.
Are you working at night?
No, but it's 8th grade
Graduation.
graduation.
Oh, that's right, the graduation.
Yeah. Oh,
How about 4 p.m.?
What time's graduation on?
I think it's 6, so that should be fine.
It should be quick just to approve the call.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And if you can't make it, that's just the two of them approving the
Yep.
call too. so you
Yeah,
don't have to-
four.
Right.
You can even zoom in.
So if you do it earlier, then it'd be better to get it to the newspaper earlier.
Yeah.
So it depends on when the school gets their money, their amounts though.
They're doing it tonight,
Okay.
so we won't see it until Monday, but.
And the town meeting will be the 18th, 6.
Yeah, I should be able to send that to you
Seven.
after the meeting tonight.
So my original plan was to vote on,
Can we do 3 p.m. on the 9th? Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
looking at my
3 p.m.
calendar now. Yeah,
Yeah.
so my original plan was to approve, this budget to move to referendum at our meeting Tuesday night, because this meeting is at 11:30 during the day, and I didn't want people to think we were being super sneaky on that.
Yep.
But since we are having a special meeting to do the call on Monday, then either we have to vote on this now or vote on it Monday before we do the call.
The budget,
The budget.
you can vote on the budget now as submitted to you guys, or you can do it on Monday. The budget and the capital project, but
I'm fine with it. I'll make a motion.
So,
I make motion to approve the budget,
Move to the resident.
move to the residents, and the capital improvement, projects, as presented today.
And using money from the unassigned fund to, offset the tax rate.
How much was that again?
it's really what we thought.
well,
211? Gotcha.
that's in that,
I mean, on the school board, that-
depending on the school, but
Yeah, that's, that amount can change.
so it might change Monday anyway, but.
Any
But
more-
our town budget, you can vote on our town budget right now.
Yeah, any more discussion on that?
No,
Okay, all in favor?
aye,
Aye. Okay, thank you, everybody.
thank you.
Let's see where this goes. Hopefully.
The time's your meeting tonight.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Six,
So,
Six.
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I
meeting
feel like we
adjourned.
hadn't adjourned.
evening, 6 p.m., 18th.